Hi everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, December 15th, 2013. We just had a huge snowfall where I live, so please forgive the sound of snow blowers buzzing in every direction. I, of course, have my groundskeepers out plowing the grounds of the Y&R chat estate. My vast mansion. Miguel, could you bring me a hot toddy, please? Actually, no, let's change that. Make it a double tequila. Oh boy. Well, I guess I'm starting us off with a little bit of humor because Lily met with her doctor this week, and he gives her some bad news that there are some elevated levels of something or other in her blood, suggesting the possibility of her cancer recurring. Y&R, do you need lessons on what is a happy storyline versus what is a depressing storyline? I mean, you just took us through Delia's death, and now you're gonna lay a possibility of cancer on us? Ugh. We need to bring it up here, Y&R, a little bit of pep. I thought for sure that she was going to end up being pregnant, but a couple of you guys reminded me. I had completely forgotten. Betsy called, left me a voicemail. I think I saw a couple of text comments too, that Lily had a complete hysterectomy, so it's not even possible for her to have children. I don't know why I completely forgot that. That would have been an example, Y&R, of a happy storyline. Lily being pregnant, but not even possible. Instead, she has to get an MRI, and now she has to have this cancer scare. And doesn't it just figure? I just kept thinking that this just figures. Just as she's finishing up her last appointment, she has to now go through the possibility of the cancer recurring again. The doctor ends up suggesting that she should just take the test right away, do the MRI, and that happens off screen. But later, she's at the athletic club with Kane and trying to work through her feelings. I mean, here she is yesterday, as happy as she can be, thinking that the cancer is completely gone, her future is totally bright, and then today, she's all of a sudden in a loud MRI machine facing the possibility of cancer, which is just kind of how life is, I guess. You're going about your business and all of a sudden you get smacked in the face with something horrible. Kane is trying really hard to be supportive of her and trying to let her talk through her emotions about it. She does admit to him how scared she is. Lily tries to be strong for everyone in her family, especially her children, but she had this moment where she broke down and really admitted to Kane that she has a fear that this cancer is going to come back and that she's going to end up missing all of these moments in her children's lives by not being there. And I loved Crystal Khalil in that moment. She was so good. It was nice to just focus in on her having these deep emotions. I really enjoyed it. She also, Lily had lunch with Devon a little bit later in the week, and she's clearly on edge. She doesn't know what the results are. She's now living in panic of her worst nightmare coming true, and she's just sort of trying to have a little bit of a lunch with Devon. She's being manic about all the things she needs to get done, thinking, what if I'm not here? I have to get the car's oil changed. What if I'm not here for that? So she's going through her own process of dealing with this news, and Hillary comes in, and there's another run-in. Hillary really, I think, tried to be diplomatic toward Lily. Hillary was saying, this is awkward. I know that. I don't want to cause you any pain. Let's just try to avoid each other and not have a big blow-up every time we're in the same room. But Lily tells her where she can shove it in no uncertain terms. She's not a fan of Hillary, and she kind of makes a big scene right there in the athletic club. Devon has to reel her in a little bit and tell her to calm it down. She ends up getting the results of her tests back, and they're clean. She's going to have to continue to go in for more checkups, but for now, it seems like the coast is clear. But Kane, on the other hand, is now trying to find something that he can do to make the situation better. When there's something bad happening that you have no control over, I think Kane's instinct, and I understand this, is to try to find something that you can control. And so Kane pays a surprising visit to Victor, shows up right at Victor's house, and essentially asks him to break off some funding for the biotech acquisition that he made while he was still running Chancellor Industries that Victor's now in charge of. Apparently, this company, Bonaventure is the name. I think we'll need to remember that. It's apparently doing cancer research, and Kane implores Victor to help give them some funding so that they can hopefully find a cure for cancer. And Victor ends up promising to take a look. You know, he's hesitant, he doesn't want to part with his money, but he promises Kane that he will take a look and see if he can prop up this little company. The problem is that Jack and Jill have another idea. They'd like to tear that company down. I am enjoying this surprising little friendship that's developed between Jack and Neil. When did that even happen? I mean, Jack and Neil have been on the scene for so long together, and now all of a sudden they're really good friends. Neil is Jack's sponsor, and Jack is having a really hard time getting through the holidays. The woman he loves is in a coma, and every time he goes to see her, there is this flicker of hope that maybe she'll just wake up and be Phyllis again, and it's dashed every single time. So this is Jack's first holiday having to deal with that. He's very tempted to use again. And so he calls Neil, and Neil tries to pump him up a little bit. I mean, Neil, I would have expected Neil to talk a little bit about Drusilla. I don't know why. Gina had mentioned to me on Facebook that it seems like every time things happen in or around Neil, you just expect Drusilla to pop up around the corner. But maybe I was just thinking, it's the holidays, you've lost your wife, your loved one. Maybe you might want to give some of that wisdom to Jack. I don't know, maybe he didn't, I missed it, but oh well. Neil is completely focused on Leslie at this point. I think Neil is maybe worried that he's taking things a little bit too slow. Last week he was talking about how he wanted to invite her to move in with him, and this week he's busting out the engagement ring, showing Jack at the athletic club. It was actually really funny because Neil pulls it out of his pocket, shows Jack, and Jack has this moment where he acts all flattered as if Neil's proposing to him. It was just really funny and really cute. Jack is adorable. Neil, by the way, after Jack leaves, is practicing his proposal, what he's going to say to Leslie. And I feel really bad for Neil because just as this is happening pretty much with Neil, Leslie is at the coffee house having a conversation with Tyler, talking about in one way or another, she's giving the I'm not ready vibe. So I have a feeling that Neil is going to be experiencing some disappointment in his very near future. So back to Jack. He heads on back to Jabot after this meeting with Neil. And Hillary has been in his office. She is at his desk drawer looking for a piece of paper or something. And she finds a big old prescription bottle for OxyContin, I guess is what it was, right there in his desk drawer. And she looks at it and she's surprised, and I'm surprised, and I'm thinking, why would Jack have those? I thought he had kicked the habit. Is he on drugs again? Well, Jack gets back to his office, and Hillary is clearly uncomfortable by what she just found, and Jack pressures her like, what's going on with you? And Hillary walks right over to the desk drawer, opens it up, shows him the pills, and I have to give Hillary props for being pretty bold enough to confront Jack about it. This is her boss. She needs this job. It means a lot to her, and she must really feel confident in the fact that Jack is a decent guy, because he could have just been like, you're fired right after that. But she did confront him about it, asked him why he had the pills, and the thing that bugs me though is Hillary had mentioned that she read somewhere or was aware that he had this addiction problem, and so she was disappointed to find the pills in his desk. But it's like Hillary knows everybody's secrets. She has been very well researched in everybody's business in this town. Jack admits that he, in a moment of weakness, arranged to have the pills, or to get the pills, but says that he didn't take them. I don't know. Do we believe him? I'm inclined to believe him, but you just never know. He seems to be doing good without him. He's got things to focus on, even if Phyllis isn't around. Jack and Jill are becoming very bonded over their mutual desire to get Chancellor Industries back from Victor, and I think they both have a certain distaste for Victor, Jack more so. But it's kind of nice seeing Jack and Jill as partners, trying to come up with a way to bring the great man down. And the thought occurred to me this week, what about a romantic relationship between Jack and Jill? It's been a while. I mean, I don't think, so we all know Jill was married to John at some point, back in the late 90s maybe? And she had an affair, maybe it was earlier than that. She had an affair with Jack while she was married to John, and I think they regretted it, and Jill tried very hard to get back with John. It had to have been way earlier than that. Way earlier than that Jack and Jill were together, but I don't think that they've been together at all since then. So what do you guys think? Jack and Jill, would that be an interesting romantic pair or not? It'd be a good way to keep Jill around. I don't know, I'm kind of open to it. I don't know. I'll test the waters, YNR, and I'll get back to you how I think about it, how I feel about it. So Jill has become convinced that Bonaventure, this biotech company that Kane is talking to Victor about as we speak, is actually Victor's weak spot. Apparently, the company may have had some controversy around it. It possibly rushed along some studies and maybe just did a couple of things wrong. So Jill has determined that this company might need to have a little PR mud slung at it just to see if maybe they can bring a bunch of bad press to Chancellor, bad press to Newman, bad press to Victor, and see if they can knock him off of his throne. Jill and Hillary and the old stuck in the elevator bit. I mean, it's getting a little tried, YNR. Every time I see that stupid stuck in the elevator bit, it takes me out of the moment a little bit. It wasn't too bad, I guess. Somebody's got to get those elevators checked. They're constantly breaking down and catching enemies and wannabe lovers in the same small box for extended periods of time. But Jill and Hillary have no love lost. Jill can't stand Hillary, doesn't trust her at all. Now they're stuck in the elevator together, and Jill ends up dropping Catherine's music box, her bequeathed music box, out of her hands, and it falls onto the floor in the elevator, and Hillary notes it and is trying to make conversation with Jill, says she remembers having a similar type of music box when she was young. Hillary is talking about how she wanted to take dance lessons when she was young, but her parents would never let her. And I loved just the dynamic there, seeing Jill begrudgingly trying to make conversation with Hillary, or like not really wanting to know anything about Hillary's childhood, but then being forced to ask and inquire about more. And I don't know, I just think they make pretty decent foes. I'm enjoying it. Hillary opens up about her father and everything that happened with his arrest and him not really being wait a minute, her father. I guess I totally got sidetracked on that. Her father was. Do we know anything about her father? Maybe that's going to be a mystery clue. I don't know. What did Hillary reveal about her father? Maybe I totally spaced out on that. I think she said he got arrested, right? I'm not sure what for, but yes, she did say he got arrested because Jill chimed in and said something, realizing that her father had been arrested and they may have had something in common. So there were foes. together, but there was also a mild amount of bonding. Jill cannot get over the idea that Hillary is playing her, because Hillary, again, she just seems to know a little too much about everyone. Hillary had mentioned that she kind of knew about Jill and her family and her father, and Jill finds that very suspicious, and I do find that a little suspicious. Hillary was going on and on about how she has, well, I mean, she was mustering up. She wasn't playing it too over the top, but she was saying she has respect for Jill because Jill has worked for everything that she has, whereas most people in Genoa City want to ream Jill for sleeping her way to the top. Hillary is complimenting her, playing into her ego, telling her, you're such a strong woman and you really earned everything you have, and it caused Jill to open up a little bit. She talked about Catherine and how much she hated her almost as much as she loved her. Oh, I loved that moment. It was adorable. But they get back to the music box and Jill reveals that she sold it on eBay to someone for $10.25. That's what it went for. And Hillary is, I think, a little shocked that she sold it, but they pick up the music box and Hillary's holding it and looking at it, and she notices that 1025 is a number on the bottom of the box. So what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know the mystery of the music box, but later, just like a cat, the music box comes back to Jill. Like, she shipped it off to someone on eBay. Then she comes home to the Chancellor Mansion and opens up a delivery for her, and inside is the music box again. Can you believe it? Hillary's with her the whole time, and she's with her for both instances of the music box, and that makes me wonder, could Hillary be connected somehow? I don't know. I just don't know. But Hillary she's up in all these storylines. She runs into Devon shortly after the elevator incident. He gets in the elevator with her, and she again tries to warn him, Mason is going to hurt you. And he is. He's certainly going to at least drain him of some of his money. And one of the things Patricia had mentioned in her voicemail to me this past week, just an awesome wisdom bomb. I'm not sure where this quote comes from, but I love it. In regards to Devon, a fool and his money will soon be parted. Jack fires Devon. I didn't see that coming at all. In fact, I didn't even remember that he worked at Chabot, so I guess it's just as well. But Jack sits Devon down and tells him he's just not committed enough to the job. I don't know, did Devon even get a warning before he just gets fired? Devon tried to keep the job, tried to say, look, I'm trying. I think I'm doing just as good as other people. And Jack is like, I don't need you to be just as good. There's a lot of young executives who are hungry for this position, and I want somebody in it who will really excel and not just phone it in. Jack tries to frame the whole thing as if he's doing a favor for Devon, like, hey, you don't need this job. You go live your life, you young, rich, crazy kid. Which maybe is what Devon needs to do. He needs to get his head on straight. He's totally having blinders on where Mason is concerned, and I don't know why. I don't know what instills the sense of trust that Devon has in Mason. Mason is straight up he's pretending to be Devon now. Mason's at the coffee house, and he's using Devon's credit card, and this girl who's working at the coffee house calls him Devon, straight up thinks that's who he is, and Mason's eyes just light up at this idea that he could be Devon. It's like he really wants to be him, and when this girl called him Devon, it was just like, oh, I want to live that life so much. I want to be him. I got a voicemail from Connor, by the way, who mentioned that he thinks maybe that girl that works at the coffee house could be Mariah, the infamous Mariah. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Is it possible? Because something's got to be up with that. But Mason ends up getting a date with this girl, pretending that he's Devon. I don't think he necessarily wanted to have to pretend that he actually is Devon Hamilton. I think he wants to be able to get the girl on his own, but that doesn't quite work out that way. She says, hey, why don't we go to this cool club opening? And Mason decides to call the place and make a reservation under his own name, and the club hangs up on him. They're like, who? Mason Wilder? Nobody knows who the heck this chump is. So he uses his own name, gets denied, and has this realization that Mason Wilder is a nobody. He is a nobody, and he's never going to get what he wants. So he calls back to the club, says, he's Devon Hamilton's assistant, and the door just flies open readily for him. Money is what is paving the path for all of the things that he wants to do. So he goes to the club with this girl. The next day, when Devon and Lily are having lunch at the athletic club, Lily mentions that she saw some article in the paper about how Devon Hamilton was at this club opening, and it just really struck me because Devon is like, I didn't go to any club opening, and you realize that, whoa, Mason is now straight up impersonating him. Abby and Tyler take this off-screen trip to Los Angeles together, and when they get back to Genoa City, Abby's got major attitude. She's just not feeling like this trip was good for them. She feels like Tyler took her on a trip to LA and did a lot of things that he used to do with Mariah. She felt like she was just a stand-in for Mariah. You went to these restaurants with Mariah. You did this and that with Mariah, and now it's me. She's just feeling scared. She's just feeling paranoid. And there's this conversation that they have where she seems like she wants to break up with him, or she's not sure what she wants. He ends up convincing her not to give up on the relationship, and that he doesn't want to give up on the relationship. Don't don't try to make it seem like I don't want you because I'm telling you that I want you. It seems to me like Tyler is very ready to get serious, but Abby is afraid that it's all too good to be true. And it may very well be, because the Mariah thing cannot be denied. There is this Mariah factor. Either it is a complete and total red herring tool, or Mariah's going to be cast and she's going to be showing up soon, or she's already here. It's Sharon's first day on the job, and she wants to stop by Jack's office to say hi to him, and she runs into Hillary. Hillary is Jack's right hand, and she's up in every single storyline at this point. So there's this reintroduction between Sharon and Hillary. They've met before, but now they're going to be working together, and they have reason to converse a little more, and Sharon mentions to Hillary that maybe we're both kind of in the same place. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard your conversation at the athletic club that day with Jack, and I identified with it in a way. And you seem like someone who's needing a second chance, and I'm someone who needs a second chance. Of course, for Sharon, it's more like a 10th chance, she admits. More like a 100th chance. I don't know, Sharon's had a lot of chances. But it's kind of, again, an interesting friendship that's maybe developing there. Do you remember when Sharon was super close with Drusilla? It feels like Sharon's never had a really good friend since then, and I don't know if Hillary would be the one to fit that bill, but Sharon needs a good friend. I definitely miss seeing that dynamic. But Hillary and Sharon are talking to each other, and Hillary kind of mentions how much Jack is missing Phyllis. They're talking about Jack and how difficult it is for him to be without her, especially now. And Hillary says Jack didn't deserve to be lied to about his daughter, that the fact that he had a daughter and it was being kept from him. And even though I don't know, Hillary seems to know how all of the players fit in Genoa City, but I don't know if she knew Sharon was married to Nick or how close Sharon was to the situation. Hillary didn't seem to know that Sharon was married to Jack at one point, which I find very difficult to believe. She knows about his pill addiction, but didn't know about his ex-wives. Maybe Hillary's just playing it cool and acting like she doesn't know everything. But Sharon quickly defends Nick. You know, Hillary's here saying, being on Jack's side in this whole situation as a neutral observer, but Sharon's a little more inside than she wants to admit. She defends Nick keeping this paternity secret, but she's in essence defending herself, saying Nick didn't do it to hurt anybody. He just kept the paternity results a secret. And then decided to tell them because he wanted things to be how they should have been. It was weird. It was like Sharon was defending Nick, but it was totally her. She was defending herself. Everything she was saying was giving her own reasons for why she was the one that fudged with the paternity results. So everywhere Sharon goes, this lie is up in her face. Everybody knows about it. Everybody's talking about it. How can she not make recompense for this? How can it not eat her alive to tell the truth? I just don't know. She's becoming very close with Summer, which is, I'm sure, causing some level of extra guilt in her. Sharon's at another one of Summer's photo shoots, and this time it's at the Underground. I don't know why they would do a high fashion photo shoot in a dingy bar with the girls holding glasses of fake beer. How fashion is that anyway? How classy is that? I don't know. I mean, the Underground is so dim. Who takes pictures in the Underground, a dim lighting situation? I'm just ready to be done with the Underground. I wish they would get over it. I was not feeling the photo shoot, although I'm sorry, but Sharon looked better than both of those models put together, Summer and her little friend. Sharon had on this all black dress with this leather front and this big chunky silver oval necklace on. It was so great looking. And then later she had on this awesome double-breasted overcoat with a big black chunky belt on. It was just, she looked really good this week. I'm always admiring Sharon's fashion. Can't help myself. But the photo shoot is going on, and Chloe ends up showing up there too. I'm sure it's part of her fashion, or maybe they've designed the clothes that the models are wearing. And it was interesting to see Chloe and Sharon talking a little bit, realizing that they have something in common. Chloe is like this open wound. Every time she wants to say something about Delia, the room goes silent. Everybody feels awkward now, like, oh, that's the woman who lost her child. And she doesn't feel comfortable always ruining conversations, but she also doesn't want to suppress the feelings that she's having when she has thoughts of Delia. And it was nice to see not only Sharon but Nick come in and talk to Chloe a little bit. They both know what she's going through. They can offer her some support in some way. Billy's got his support group. Chloe just really has Kevin. She's not talking to anyone at this point. So I kind of would like to see some more of that. They have more in common than they realize, and I think it would be especially interesting because Chloe's best friends with Chelsea, and that makes her supposed to hate Sharon, in the past anyway. So it would be cool to maybe see Sharon and Chloe bonding more. I don't know, what do you guys think? Could that be a good friendship for Sharon? She needs a friend. So while Summer is doing this photo shoot, she's looking tired. She's got a lot going on in her mind. The photos are not sparkling, and she realizes this. Chloe realizes this. The other model realizes this and tells Summer maybe she should do a little pick-me-up, some energy pills. She gives her the number of some guy that can give her some energy pills. Well, I don't think you need to go to some guy for energy pills. It's drugs. Let's be real. I mean, Summer goes, I don't do drugs, and the model's like, oh, it's not drugs, it's energy pills. Well, you can get energy pills over the counter. If you have to get your pills from some random guy on the street, they're drugs. Let's be real. Maybe the model was just in denial. I don't know. But luckily, Sharon senses what's going on with Summer and this other model, and Summer comes over to Sharon, and Sharon tells Summer she doesn't need any of that model's advice, whatever the girl told you, just forget it. I'm not entirely sure if Sharon heard everything or not, but she definitely reinforced to Summer that she doesn't need advice from anyone else. She's doing just fine. But then, after Summer and everyone leaves, it was weird. Nick sat down with Sharon, and he's going on and on about how much, Summer misses her mother, and he, wishes Phyllis would come back. And Sharon gives Nick a reality check about Phyllis. Sharon launches into this line of logic saying, Phyllis was not a saint. Just because she's in a coma does not mean that she was this perfect person. She did lots of things. She shouldn't judge you for switching the paternity test results when she duped Danny into thinking he was Daniel's father for such a long time. And I guess it was just Sharon's way of trying to appease her own guilt. But it was odd. I think Nick was taken aback by the fact that she was not being very sensitive toward Phyllis's situation. And then later, Sharon is at home hanging out, and guess what? Cassie's ghost comes to her, and I think maybe because Sharon is still on her meds, maybe this is a better version of Cassie. Maybe it's more Cassie as Sharon's conscience in the same way that John is Jack's conscience. And Sharon's at first like, you shouldn't be here, I'm taking my medication. But Cassie comes back with some pretty decent advice. It seems in the past it was all about let's lie and hide things. But now Cassie's encouraging Sharon to tell the truth. You got to tell Nick what's going on. You got to do it for you. You got to do it for him. You got to do it for everyone. And Sharon is not really into that idea. She does not want to tell the truth. And it's going to be kind of hard to tell Nick the truth when he's at the underground ordering her a heated foot spa from a catalog for Christmas. It's Lauren and Michael's anniversary, and they get all dressed up and go out for a special dinner. And it was very hard for them to get dressed up and enjoy fine dining while their son is in the clink. So they're trying to enjoy themselves, but at the same time, there's this cloud of sadness hovering over them. I remember how much I used to love Lauren and Michael. They were such a great couple. Since it was their anniversary, we saw flashbacks of Michael's amazing casino proposal. And they both just looked so young and so fresh, and Michael was so dapper, and it was such an unexpected pairing. I loved it. And they also flashed back to when Lauren found out that she was pregnant with Fenn, and Michael's at the computer, he's totally immersed in his work, and she practically has to drag him away to tell him that he's going to be a father. And it was just, I loved seeing the flashbacks. I loved seeing them looking into each other's eyes and remembering how things used to be and their perfect family. And it was just nice to see them together and in love. But Lauren got another unknown caller during dinner. We need to get on with it, YNR. This used to be my favorite couple. This used to be my favorite storyline. When this all started coming to head, I really was so into it. It was the storyline I wanted to talk about first and most. And now I'm just like, ugh, this is getting ridiculous. Fenn is still in prison. He's only got a couple of days left to go. He's still in debt to Zach Womack. I'm calling him Zach Womack because I'm just feeling like, I think I hit it last week. I think maybe that is right. I have a feeling that Womack, the prison guy, is Courtney's troubled relative, brother, or whatever he is. But the scary thing for Fenn is he is in debt to Womack for saving his hide, and Womack reveals that he is actually going to be getting out soon too. So even when Fenn gets out of jail, he is going to have to deal with Womack. That's where I was wrong. I thought, ugh, who cares? Womack's in prison. He can't hurt you when you're out. But no. Womack's going to be on the outside, and he's going to be expecting a return favor. So Summer is at the coffee house and she sees Raven and she tells her to stay away from Fenn when he gets out of jail, which is supposed to be very soon. And then Summer ends up calling Courtney out on her bull and says, I called around, you don't work with anyone named Zach, what's the secret that you're hiding? Courtney evades as usual, but then later Courtney goes to the park and finds Raven and sees her and gets some pills from her, and Courtney, before she walks away, tells Raven to keep her mouth shut because she doesn't want everybody to know that she's actually doing these drugs or selling them, or I don't know. I mean, I assume she's doing them. I assume she's doing the pills. And it's this weird underground Genoa City drug ring that seems to be really plaguing the children. Fenn does get out of prison later in the week. He's enjoying his freedom. He goes to Crimson Lights, is ordering scrambled eggs and just liking not eating prison food. But he's with Michael and Lauren, and they're only able to pretend that they're a happy little family for so long. Things turn dark really quick. Fenn tells them that he thinks he needs to run because he's out of prison for the drug charges, but he knows that the police are closing in on who killed Carmine. Fenn believes that he's the one that pulled the trigger. He doesn't say anything about remembering anything about that night, but says he feels sure that he pulled the trigger. I don't even know what that means. Maybe that's a loophole or something, but he feels that he needs to run, and that's the only way out, that he needs to go on the lam. He doesn't tell him the real reason, though, is that he is extremely afraid that Womack is going to get out and force him back into drugs, or that he doesn't tell Lauren and Michael that he's been threatened. That might be a good thing to do. It was weird. Lauren actually said that she thinks maybe it's not a bad idea if Fenn runs. Maybe it's not. Go ahead, Fenn. Run right off the set. I don't even care at this point. He meets Summer at the park, and he's super paranoid the entire time. He's looking over his shoulder, wondering if Womack is going to jump out of the bushes, and Summer thinks he's still on drugs, but he's just afraid. He's just an afraid little kid. But the thing is Fenn's fear feels so contrived to me. Just the whole situation seems so contrived. I don't get a real genuine sense of fear. I don't feel afraid for Fenn. I just feel like, blah, who cares? It feels hard to believe. I mean, is anybody really after him? Does anybody really care? Is Womack really going to pursue him? I mean, I guess in this world he is. I don't know. Maybe if Womack is out of prison, and if he's gonna go after Fenn, which I suppose he probably is, maybe it would be better if Fenn got caught for Carmine's murder and got back into jail, except there are probably dozens of other guys who want to beat him up. Paul is still trying to get to the bottom of the murder case. How many weeks later? How many? I don't even know. I've lost count. But Paul, last week, at the end of last week's show, looked at some piece of information and had this big realization. I thought maybe it was a crime scene photo or something, because he said out loud, who the hell is that? But no, what it actually was, Paul realized that Carmine's autopsy was performed by some unknown person. It wasn't the regular coroner. So Paul's looking at the signature on the death certificate, I guess, and going, who's that guy? Carmine's still alive. Okay, the autopsy was performed by some unknown person. Whatever, he's still alive. It's predictable and boring to me at this point. Paul is not giving up until he finds answers. I wish he would get some answers soon. He chats on with Chris. It is nice seeing Chris these days. She never amounts to anything major with the storylines, but it's nice seeing her face. So Paul is in his office going over the evidence once again, and he looks into a bag, and he sets it on his desk, and the camera does a close-up of what I guess is Fenn's sober chip. So that sober chip, I thought Michael was able to get But apparently now the sober chip is back in the evidence bag, and that's going to obviously connect Fenn to the murder. I don't understand. If Carmine's still alive, he could be making all of these calls to Lauren to A, hear her voice, but B, know when they're out of the apartment. He could have found the sober chip, put it back in the bag. I don't know why Carmine would want so badly to frame Fenn for his murder. I would think he would want it to be Michael. I don't know. Was it even the sober chip? Did I see that right? I don't know. Victoria and Billy are taking Johnny to apply for preschool this week. It's probably harder to get into this preschool than it was to get into my college. What the heck? Applying for a preschool? Who are these people? Am I the only one that didn't even go to preschool? In my day, kindergarten was optional. You didn't even have to go, so I don't get it. Who would apply to send their kid to a preschool? I guess extremely rich people. That's who. But it was apparently the same school that Delia went to, so Billy's talking through his feelings about that and having to go to that school over and over and experience, parent-teachers conferences and plays for Johnny, and he's never going to be able to escape it, but he decides he still wants to move forward. He and Victoria are at the coffee house with Johnny when Kelly walks in and meets Victoria for the first time and accidentally calls her Veronica. She's Victoria Newman, Victoria Newman as in Victor Newman's daughter, as in Newman Enterprises, like probably the most powerful company in town. You don't know who Victoria Newman is? It was off to a very, very bad start. Victoria got a bad vibe off of her right away. This woman, Kelly, knows all of her husband's secrets, his most deepest, darkest, private pain, but doesn't know his wife's name? That just goes to show he ain't talking about her very much when they're talking. Ooh, seems like all of the women get a bad vibe off of Kelly, and maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a real big reason. Judging from their friendliness, Victoria realizes that Kelly is closer to her husband than she thought. They're chatting it up, talking about her deep freezer, her everyday life things he knows about. So they're close. Kelly tries to give him this book of inspirational quotes, so she's gone out, bought something for him. She's really thinking about his recovery and seemingly trying to be super nice, like she would make probably a good friend. But I believe Victoria is slowly realizing this woman knows way too much about her family. She's too involved. Kelly leaves and Billy tries to elaborate to Victoria afterwards and says, sometimes it's just, good to talk to somebody after the meetings. Kelly lost her child too, and she's someone who made it through, so it's good to talk to her. And Victoria acts very grateful on the surface for Kelly that she's helping him, but she has this twinge instinct about Kelly that I think she's trying to suppress right now, but that instinct says, danger, danger to my marriage. She maybe needs to listen to that instinct, because later, Billy and Victoria are at home. Billy's trying to muster up some kind of energy to put up Christmas decorations this year, but he's practically wriggling around in his seat, wanting to get out of the house so that he can go to a meeting. It's never just the meeting, okay? It's his meetings with Kelly that he's really looking forward to. He goes to a meeting, then sees her there, she's always there, and then of course they go to the park afterwards, and then, that's not enough, he and Kelly decide to go out for drinks after that. They're basically dating! Chloe has taken Connor and no one knows where she is. Chelsea calls Kevin to bring him in and he hasn't seen her and he doesn't really even seem to take it seriously, like everything's fine. But Chelsea is really freaked out by the fact that her son is missing. Steal my baby once, shame on you. Steal my baby twice, shame on me. She wants her son back ASAP. Kevin is trying to calm her down. Chelsea wants to call the police, but Kevin convinces her against it. It's probably no big deal. Just as Kevin goes to leave, Chloe shows back up with the baby. looking totally fine. No big deal whatsoever. She just took him for a drive because he was being fussy. Well, that kind of fizzled. I thought that was going to be some big, huge blow-up story. But no, it just was gone. Chloe comes back and says, what's the problem? I just took him out. Sorry, I didn't call. I thought it would be quicker. I just wanted to calm him down. No big deal. I felt really bad for Chloe, to be honest, because she realizes that Kevin and especially Chelsea thought she had stolen the baby. The thought that she was unstable enough to steal the child to replace Delia. Chloe was supremely offended, and I think it's kind of understandable. I mean, you never know with the show who's gonna do what, but as a woman, I can understand how how Chloe would have been offended by that. Chelsea is now in this position where she has to beg for forgiveness. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to think that. I'm just, I've been burned, but the damage is done. Chloe's offended. Chelsea feels horrible. It was, I think it put a little bit of tarnish on their friendship and just made Chloe feel so much worse. I think it must be difficult for Chloe to know that her best friend is doing so well. I mean, her life is going perfectly while Chloe is being dragged further and further down, trying so hard to hold herself above water. Chelsea's trying to get on with her life. And I thought that Patricia had made a really good point, or something to consider. She mentioned in her voicemail that maybe the reason that Chloe doesn't want Chelsea and Adam to get back together is because she's jealous that Adam is taking better care of Connor than Billy did of Delia. I wonder what you guys think of that. Is that a possibility? Is that a good point? Adam is being a very doting dad. This is Connor's first Christmas. He goes out to get a Christmas tree, and so they're all Chelsea and Adam are stringing lights around the tree. They're trying to decorate to make this first Christmas as special as possible for their son. Kevin stops by to check up on Chelsea in the situation, and they have to end up explaining to Adam the Chloe scare, which Adam was not happy about not being informed that his son was missing, even if it was for one moment. But I think there was a day where Adam probably would have flipped out about that. He would have threatened to cut Chelsea out of Connor's life, but this is a post-Delia world, and Adam seems to be a different man. He takes it a little more easily than I think maybe he would have a year ago even. He leaves, and he goes to this agency, I guess a non-profit agency where Kelly happens to work. And again, I think she did it. I just wonder if she's the one that killed Delia. I can't help myself. But Adam wants to set up a memorial foundation in Delia's name and donate some money for children's education. And Kelly is very touched by this and wants to tell Billy and Chloe that Adam has done this for their child, but Adam requests anonymity. He doesn't want anyone to know that he's done this. He's trying to find some other way to make amends for what he did, and this is his best way of doing it in his mind. But I wonder why he decided to remain anonymous, because it would make sense that he would want to make a financial contribution in Delia's name because he received her organ donation. So it almost makes him look more suspicious that he wants to remain anonymous. And I wonder if Kelly's going to be able to keep his secret. I wonder if that's going to end up being just another clue that points to Adam. While Adam is gone on this task, Chelsea's at home. She opens up a drawer and she finds their wedding bands. And she looks at them very longingly, realizes that he must have kept them pristinely in the box in a very sentimental way. She even takes her ring out of the box and puts it on her finger and realizes that it fits like a glove. And it feels almost like the lifestyle fits like a glove. I think she was surprised with herself by how comfortable that was. And maybe she saw herself being Adam's wife again in that moment. And he comes home after she puts the rings away and he comes home, and he feels that now he wants to move on. He wants to solidify his relationship with Chelsea. He even kisses her and tells her that they have a chance now to make a family together, a real family together, and he doesn't want to blow it. They both seal it with kiss and a sex, and they decide to move forward together. I think, though, what we're going to see is Adam and Chelsea falling back in love just as he gets arrested. At the end of last week's show, Victor is having the realization that Nikki confided everything about her long-lost son in Paul. And Paul shows up at the house, and there's a very tense meeting between the three of them. Paul leaves, goes to his office. Apparently he doesn't have a house. But he tells Christine, now that the cat's out of the bag about everything going on with Nikki's son, he tells Chris that he was the one that was helping her, and that yes, they went on trips, and yes, all of it's true. Chris was not happy about being kept in the dark with the secret, but Chris also is a little more compassionate. She understands that Paul was trying to be supportive of his friend. Victor, on the other hand, no, not very understanding at all. Victor is still at home pouting about the fact that Nikki didn't tell him. Victor's whole argument is, but I'm your husband. That's his whole argument, and I get it. He is. Victor promises that he's going to stand by Nikki, but he is obviously hurt. Connor had left me a voicemail this week and really zeroed in on that scene where Victor is really hurt. It really hurt him deeply that his wife could not confide this in him, not just within the last couple of months, but in the whole span of their relationship. He thinks he knows everything about Nikki, and this is something that she's kept from him, and I understand that does really hurt him deeply. As soon as Victor leaves, Nikki calls Dylan and leaves him a voice message, tells him, she's available to talk to him if he wants to, and he hears the beep of the voice message just as he's walking into the athletic club, just as he's bumping into Victor, and Victor has to get a word in, has to tell Dylan to stay away from Nikki. Why would he do that? It seems a little too aggressive for me. Victor sees Dylan as nothing but an opportunist. Maybe he just knows that Nikki is vulnerable and that Dylan would be in a position to do harm or take from her because she feels guilty and she's in this vulnerable position. So, but at the same time, Victor putting the pressure on Dylan, telling him to stay away from her, that's exactly why Nikki didn't tell him in the first place. She didn't want Victor to get up in there and go all Victor. That's what he does, and he's not going to see that. He is not going to accept Dylan. Even Nick is coming around, and Victor still refuses. There's this moment later at the ranch where Nick comes up to see Nikki, and she's not there, but he has a conversation with Victor, and tells Victor, I've decided I'm not going to judge her, so why are you still judging her? If we can get over it, why can't you just get over it? Victoria's kind of saying the same thing to Victor. She pops up at the ranch and tries to explain to Victor how she's decided to welcome Dylan into the family. He's been such a good friend to Billy. Victoria keeps saying that. And I get that Dylan has definitely been helpful to Billy, but it's been a while since we've seen any scenes between Billy and Dylan. Billy's got a new friend in Kelly, not Dylan. So I don't know. They're not as close as Victoria is maybe making it seem, but I'm glad she's accepting him and not fighting it. Victor just cannot let it go. He straight up insults Dylan in front of Nikki. She comes home and he's going on and on about how he's never going to let that man into my house. I'm never going to let that man into my house. Has he no respect for Nikki at all, though? I understand that he's hurting, but he needs to try to have some empathy, put himself into Nikki's shoes. I'm glad, very glad that Victor has this allegiance to Nick, because I think it should be there. But Nick is even deciding to forgive and try to move on. And frankly, I think someone needs to take Victor aside and explain to him exactly what happened with Nick and Avery. Dylan didn't steal Avery away from Nick. That's not how it happened. When Avery told Dylan no, that she was gonna marry Nick, she wanted to be involved with Nick, he stopped pursuing. He respected that. It was Avery's choice to stay with Dylan on her wedding day instead of going to marry Nick. He didn't ask her to. She did that all on her own. So, Victor, if you want to be uneasy about Dylan being in your lives, go ahead, because you got plenty of reasons. But I'd be more concerned about the fact that Dylan has serious emotional problems and PTSD flashbacks than his interference, however it may be perceived, in Nick and Avery's relationship. He's got PTSD flashbacks. He's been known to be dangerous. Hey, remember that 2 weeks when that was going on, when Dylan was actually a little dangerous? It just feels like Y&R is constantly dropping things. They didn't bring up the PTSD thing at all anymore. It's just gone into the mist. But anyway, there was a surprising little interaction between Dylan and Summer this week. She's at the coffee house and she tells him she heard all about the fact that he's family now. And she tries to say, you know, the Newmans are a good family. Nick and Nikki are both good people. The children, or the younger ones, seem to be the ones that are most forgiving and most welcoming. It's Victor, the old goat, who is not able to accept him. Of course, as if we could expect Victor to accept Dylan with open arms. Nikki goes to the coffee house after learning the DNA test results and just wants to try to explain herself once again, make sure he is okay. And Dylan is just really not hearing it. He doesn't want another mother. He doesn't want this extra hassle in his life. And he tells her in no uncertain terms that he doesn't want her. And Nikki is hurt, obviously, but she just very patiently tells him, you know, I understand, I respect that, and I will be ready for you if or when you decide differently. So for now, it seems that relationship is being put on hold, and we're getting a little more focus on Dylan's father instead. Avery is trying to convince Dylan to seek out information about his father, Ian Ward. Gary called into my voicemail this week and said exactly what I was thinking. Why? Why would Avery be trying to convince Dylan to learn more about Ian Ward? Not to mention the fact that this could be too much for him. This could push him over the edge. It's common knowledge that his father was a bad guy, a cult leader, and there's some indication or implication that maybe he raped Nikki or coerced her somehow into the sexual relationship. So why would Avery want him to meet his father? She gives him this folder of information, everything that she could find on Ian Ward, and he decides to take a look at it. And I can't imagine why he would want to. The one good, awesome note that's coming out of this maternity storyline is that Ian Ward is going to be coming onto the scene. I'm pretty excited about this. They've cast him, and in fact, they casted him in a brilliant way. Ray Weiss has been cast as Ian Ward. He played Leland Palmer on Twin Peaks. Do you guys remember Twin Peaks? It was this amazingly weird and spooky yet funny series, and Ray Weiss was brilliant in it. He was so good. I mean, this guy, whew, he is a good actor. I'm so excited about it. I haven't seen him do much, or I haven't been aware much of anything he's done since Twin Peaks, but I loved him in that, and I have a feeling I'm really going to love him in Y&R. I mean, this Ian Ward character is going to be charismatic but creepy, and I think Ray Weiss is really going to fit the bill with that. So that's one little ray of awesome sunshine in the storyline. I cannot wait for that element. Oh boy, that just about does it for me for this week. One other thing I wanted to mention was I got a voicemail from Connor, who had a really good idea about maybe doing an end of the year YNR reward or award ceremony or something, like best moments of the year, worst moments of the year, like a 2013 wrap up of YNR. I'm actually really bad at timelines of stuff. Like, I could not for the life of me tell you what happened in January of this year. I don't know where I would even begin to do some kind of research. I'm so in the moment and I'm so week to week. It's always shocking to me that things happen and I'm like, wow, that was this year, or wow, that was last year. I have no linear. I'm really bad. I have bad memory issues. So that's why I haven't done anything like that before, but I still think it's a good idea. Maybe you guys should leave me some comments and let me know what you think the best and worst moments of 2013 have been. Gosh, for best moment, what would it be? Oh man, I gotta think about that. Worst moment would definitely have to be Delia's death. I imagine everybody would probably agree on that, but I'll have to think about my best moment of 2013. It'll probably be something within the last couple of months because that's about as far back as I can remember. I'm so bad. Okay, well, I better get going. I love you guys. I hope everybody has a good week and enjoys the show, and feel free to leave me your comments. I love hearing from you. Bye!